At my funeral, Linda, my wife of 3 years who hadn't said a single word to me, she was always thought to be mute, hugged my tombstone and cried for 3 days and 3 nights, finally vomiting blood and collapsing. When I opened my eyes again, I was back 3 years on the day we divorced. The air in the living room was as cold as ice. Linda was wearing a white dress, so clean it was spotless, like an angel, but the divorce agreement she handed me felt like a judgment from hell. She still didn't speak, only looked at me with those cold eyes, a hint of impatience and annoyance hidden within. Beside her, my mother-in-law, Sue Mamlin, crossed her arms, undisguised sneer on her lips. "Duke, don't dawdle. Sign it quickly. What is Linda's status? And what are you? A useless person who lives off our family. Do you really think you can be our son-in-law forever? For these 3 years, you've eaten our food, lived in our house, and now that Gu Yunfan is back, you're useless. Take this 500,000 and leave immediately, and never appear before us again." Gu Yunfan was the person Linda cared about most. She had held him in her heart for 7 whole years. What was I? I was just a substitute, a tool, to reassure Linda's grandfather while he was abroad. Now that the real deal was back, I, the fake, should have been thrown into the trash. In my previous life, I knelt down here like a dog, begging Linda not to drive me away. I said I loved her, I could give up everything just to stay by her side. And what was the result? I was beaten by the security guard Sue Mamlin called, my leg broken, and thrown out of the villa like trash. Later, I ended up on the streets, watching Gu Yunfan drive a luxury car, holding Linda, kissing under the fireworks. They got engaged, they got married. And I froze to death under an overpass on a stormy winter night. After death, my soul floated in the sky and saw the most absurd scene. Linda had gone mad. She started searching for me all over the world, dialing my disconnected number over and over. Finally, she found my cheap tombstone with even the name misspelled. That woman who had never said a word to me, who wouldn't even spare me a glance, hugged the cold tombstone and cried her heart out. She called my name over and over again, her voice hoarse, filled with blood. "Duke, come back. I was wrong. Please come back. Didn't you say you loved me? Didn't you say you would always be with me? You liar." She gestured over and over with sign language, the sign language I'd struggled to learn for 3 years, but never saw her use. "I love you. I'm sorry. Don't go." It was laughable. When I was alive, you discarded me like a useless thing, and after I died, you pretended to love me so much. Linda, your love is worth less than paper. Now, looking at the familiar and cold face in front of me, I felt no emotion whatsoever. Reborn, I no longer want to love. I just want to live for myself. I picked up the pen and signed my name at the end of the divorce agreement. "Duke," I wrote these 2 words freely, feeling a lightness I had never felt before. My action stunned both Linda and Sue Mamlin. They probably thought I would still cling to them, begging and pleading as I did in my previous life. "Very good. You're sensible." Sue Mamlin was the first to react, snatching the agreement with undisguised joy on her face. She took out a bank card from her bag and contemptuously tossed it on the table. "There's 500,000 in the card. The password is 6 zeros. Take the money and leave now." I didn't look at the card, my gaze fixed on Linda. She seemed a little surprised, and in those usually expressionless eyes, for the first time, an emotion I couldn't understand appeared. Was it surprise? Or a disappointment? Who cares? I stood up, straightened the cheap shirt I was wearing, the only thing I owned that didn't belong to Linda's family. "My things are already packed. They're at the door," I said calmly. "I wish you and Gu Yunfan happiness forever." After speaking, I turned to leave without a trace of hesitation. Behind me came Sue Mamlin's cold laughter. "A useless person is just a useless person. What are you pretending to be?" I ignored her, but just as I reached the door, my hand about to touch the doorknob, a clear, slightly trembling voice came from behind me. "Wait." My whole body stiffened. This voice. I suddenly turned around, staring intently at Linda. Her lips were slightly parted, her face pale, looking at me with complex eyes, as if that one sentence had exhausted all her strength. After 3 years of marriage, this was the first time I had heard her speak, so she wasn't mute. This realization burned into my heart like a red-hot iron. So she just didn't want to talk to me. The me of my previous life was a huge joke. I thought she had a disability. I carefully protected her self-esteem. I learned sign language for her. I shielded her from all the strange looks. I thought that even though our world was quiet, as long as our hearts were together, it would be enough, but it turned out her world was wonderful, but that world never included me. "Something wrong?" I asked, my voice so hoarse it was strange even to myself. My indifference seemed to sting her. Linda's eyes instantly turned red. She took a step forward, as if she wanted to grab me, but stopped, her lips moved, and after a long while, she uttered a few more words. That 500,000 isn't enough. I raised an eyebrow. Even Sue Manlin was stunned, looking at her daughter in confusion. Linda took a deep breath as if she had made a decision, and looked at me, saying, "I'll give you 5 million more, no, 10 million, you don't leave." Her voice was no longer clear like before, but carried a hint of begging. I almost laughed out loud. In my previous life, I knelt on the ground begging her, and she didn't even look at me. In this life, I was taking the initiative to leave, and she wanted to keep me with money? Linda, what exactly do you take me for? A commodity whose value can be measured by money? No need. I refused coldly. I think your family's money is dirty. After speaking, I opened the door and left without looking back. Behind me came Sue Manlin's furious scream. "Duke, you ungrateful thing. Stop right there." And Linda's stifled sob filled with pain. Walking out of the gate of Linda's villa, the sunlight outside stung my eyes. I carried that worn-out suitcase, which contained only a few changes of clothes. I was free. But my heart felt empty. 3 years of feelings had ultimately been wasted, but I didn't leave the city immediately. I knew the Linda family would soon face a big problem, and that problem was my best chance to turn things around. In my previous life, after I died, my soul floated and I saw many things that would happen in the future. For example, the cooperation project with Chu Group, which the Linda family was so proud of, was actually a huge trap. Chu Group's real purpose was to steal the core patent of a new energy technology developed by the Linda family under the guise of cooperation. And the person in charge of this cooperation was Gu Yunfan, who had just returned to the country. In my previous life, the Linda family was designed by Chu Group, and Gu Yunfan, through this project, eventually going bankrupt and ending up miserably. What I need to do now is to get what they want one step ahead of them. I used a few hundred yuan I had to rent the cheapest basement. Then, I started writing a detailed plan. I want to get the key material for this technology before the Linda family does. That material is called mockery graphene, a very rare mineral with very few reserves worldwide. And I know that there's a small mockery graphene vein hidden underground in the abandoned factory area in the west of the city, which is about to be demolished. In my previous life, this vein was accidentally discovered during the demolition, causing a great sensation, and the foreman of the demolition team who discovered it became rich overnight. And now, there's still a month before the demolition. I need money, a starting capital. I went to the largest antique market in the city. In my previous life, in order to please Linda's grandfather, who loved collecting, I had read almost all the books on antique appraisal, so I could be considered a half-expert. I remembered that today, a farmer from the countryside would bring an ancestral dirty bowl to the market to sell. Asking for 500 yuan, everyone thought it was a worthless rough pottery bowl, but I knew it was a long-lost Song Dynasty Tianmu bowl, which was very valuable. I walked around the market again, and finally saw the thin farmer in the corner. He had spread a piece of broken cloth on the ground in front of him, with a dirty bowl placed on it. I walked over and squatted down. "Uncle, how much for this bowl?" The old farmer raised his eyelids and glanced at me, saying weakly, 500, no bargaining. I smiled and took out the crumpled 500 yuan from my pocket and handed it to him. "I'll take it." The transaction was completed, and I turned to leave with the bowl. I had only taken a few steps when a frivolous voice came from behind. "Yo, isn't this the Linda family's good-for-nothing son-in-law? What? Were you kicked out and reduced to scavenging in a place like this?" I turned around and saw the last person I wanted to see, Gu Yunfan. He was wearing an expensive handmade suit, surrounded by several bodyguards, like a moon surrounded by stars, and beside him stood Linda. Looking troubled, she was here too. Seeing the dirty bowl in my hand, Gu Yunfan laughed even more unrestrainedly. "No money for food? Want to learn from others and find a bargain? A person like you is worthy?" Several second-generation rich kids beside him also laughed along. Linda's face was very ugly. She tugged at Gu Yunfan's sleeve, as if wanting him to stop talking. But Gu Yunfan shook her off and walked up to me, looking down at me condescendingly. "Duku, I advise you to know your place. Linda is my woman now. You better stay away from her, otherwise I have 100 ways to make you unable to stay in this city." Looking at his smug face, I suddenly felt it was ridiculous. In my previous life, I was trampled underfoot by this kind of person and bullied miserably. "Are you done?" I asked calmly. Gu Yunfan was stunned, seemingly not expecting me to react like this. If you're done, then get lost. You. Gu Yunfan's face instantly turned purple. He probably had never been treated like this before, and he raised his hand to hit me. Stop. Linda rushed over, stood in front of me, and grabbed Gu Yunfan's wrist tightly. She looked at me, her eyes full of worry and anxiety. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. I knew she was trying to use sign language to tell me to leave quickly. I sneered in my heart. Linda, who are you putting on this act for now? Is it to make up for the guilt in your heart, or to pretend to be kind in front of your white moonlight? What's wrong? Feeling sorry for him? Gu Yunfan looked at Linda, protecting me, his eyes turning cold. Linda, don't forget, he's nothing now. Are you trying to slap my face by protecting a good-for-nothing? Linda's body trembled, and her face turned even paler. She slowly let go of her hand. Yes, I'm just a good-for-nothing, and Gu Yunfan is a favored son of heaven. How could she offend Gu Yunfan for my sake? I watched the light in her eyes disappear little by little, feeling no sympathy, only endless ridicule. Gu Yunfan, I looked at him and said, word by word, I've remembered this slap today. Soon, I'll make you kneel down and return it. After saying that, I stopped looking at them and turned to leave. I could feel Linda's gaze stabbing me in the back like needles, but I didn't look back. It was time for us to end a long time ago. I took the Bian Tianmu bowl directly to the largest auction house in the city. After expert appraisal, the value of the bowl was confirmed. The manager of the auction house, a woman named Chu Shuang, personally received me. She had neat short hair, wore a capable professional suit, and had sharp eyes like an eagle. Mr. Duku, our auction house is willing to auction this Tianmu bowl with a reserve price of 80 million. Of course, if you're willing to sell it directly to us, we can pay you 75 million immediately. Chu Shuang, I remember this name. In my previous life, she was the head of the Chu family and the Linda family's biggest competitor. The Chu family was the family that gave the bankrupt Linda family the fatal blow in the end, and Chu Shuang was known for her ruthless and decisive business methods. This was a woman who could not be underestimated. I'm not selling it, and I'm not auctioning it. I looked at her and said calmly. Chu Shuang was stunned. Then what does Mr. Duke mean? I want to use it to invest in your Chu family's business. My words made the expressionless Chu Shuang show a shocked look for the first time. She stared at me, as if trying to see through my whole being. Mr. Duku, do you know what you're saying? Our Chu family is not a place that just anyone can enter. Of course, I know, I smiled. But I also know that your Chu family is currently encountering big trouble in bidding for the redevelopment project of that piece of land in the west of the city. Your biggest competitor is Chu Group, right? Chu Shuang's pupils suddenly shrank. This matter was the Chu family's core secret, and outsiders absolutely couldn't know about it. And I have a way to make you win. I threw out my bargaining chip. Chu Shuang was silent. She looked at me, her eyes changing constantly. After a long time, she finally said, why should I believe you? Because of this, I pushed the plan I had written to her. It analyzed Chu Group's weaknesses in detail, as well as the secrets hidden underground in that abandoned factory area. Chu Shuang picked up the plan and flipped through it page by page. Her expression changed from initial contempt to surprise, then to solemnity, and finally to unbelievable shock. She suddenly raised her head, looking at me with a look as if she were looking at a monster. Who exactly are you? Someone who can help you defeat Chu Group? I leaned back on the sofa. Relax, so, President Chu? Is my sincerity enough? Chu Shuang closed the plan, took a deep breath, and the rise and fall of her chest became obvious. She stood up and extended her hand to me. Welcome to join us, Mr. Duke. From now on, you'll be our Chu family's Chief Strategic Advisor. I smiled. I knew I had bet right. My path to revenge had officially begun from this moment. After reaching a cooperation agreement with the Chu family, everything became smoother. Chu Shuang used the power of her family to secretly buy the ownership of the abandoned factory area in the west of the city at the fastest speed. And the Linda family and Gu Yunfan were completely unaware of this. They were still happy about their upcoming cooperation with Chu Group. That Linda's family held a grand celebration banquet, inviting all the city celebrities. I also received an invitation, given to me by Chu Shuang. She said the show was about to begin, and she wanted this chief director to go and see it in person. That evening, I wore a top-tier luxury suit prepared for me by Chu Shuang, and appeared in Linda's family's banquet hall as Chu family's chief strategic advisor. My appearance was like a bomb, causing a huge commotion in the crowd. Isn't that Linda's family's good-for-nothing son-in-law? Why is he here? Who is the woman beside him? Her aura is so strong. Oh my god, that's Chu Ningshuang from the Chu family. How could he be with Chu Ningshuang? I heard all the discussions, but I didn't care. I saw Su Manlin's face distorted by shock, and Gu Yunfan's expression, as if he had seen a ghost. Finally, my gaze landed on the woman in the center of the crowd, wearing a starlight dress, so beautiful that people couldn't take their eyes off her. Linda, she also saw me. Our eyes met, and her body trembled violently. The champagne glass in her hand fell to the ground with a clang, shattering into pieces. Her eyes were full of shock, incomprehension, and a hint of panic that I couldn't understand. Gu Yunfan was the first to react. He strode up to me, his eyes fierce. "Duke, who told you to come? You're not welcome here. Get out." He wanted to point fingers at me, as before. Unfortunately, the situation was different now. Before I could speak, Chu Ningshuang stepped forward, blocking me, and looked at Gu Yunfan with icy eyes. "Mr. Gu, please watch your words. Mr. Duke is now a distinguished guest of our Chu family. Disrespecting him is disrespecting our Chu family." Chu Ningshuang's words made Gu Yunfan's face turn pale instantly. The Chu family was an existence that even Tianmu Group had to show respect to. How could a small project leader like him dare to offend them? "Chu, President Chu, you misunderstood. We have some private grudges with him." Gu Yunfan's voice stuttered a little. "I don't care what grudges you have." Chu Ningshuang's aura was so strong that it was suffocating. "I only know that from today onwards, anyone who dares to touch a single hair on Mr. Duke's head will be going against Chu Ningshuang, against the entire Chu family." The whole place was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Everyone looked at me with strange eyes. They couldn't figure out how a good-for-nothing who had been kicked out of Linda's family had suddenly become a favorite of the Chu family. Su Manlin's face turned red and white, extremely ugly. She walked over quickly, forcing a smile on her face that looked worse than crying. "Ningshuang, are you mistaken? This Duke, he's just he." She wanted to say I was a good-for-nothing, but under Chu Ningshuang's cold gaze, she didn't dare to say it. "Aunt Su," Chu Ningshuang said lightly, interrupting her. "Do I need to explain my actions to you?" Su Manlin was choked, speechless. Just then, Linda walked over. She stared at me, her eyes red. "Duke, what exactly do you want?" I looked at her and found it a little funny. "What do I want?" "Miss Linda, aren't you being too nosy? We're already divorced. My business has nothing to do with you." Linda was speechless at my words. Tears were swirling in her eyes, looking like she was about to cry. If it were the previous me, seeing her like this, I would have felt terrible. But now, I only felt disgusted. "Duke, don't go too far." Gu Yunfan immediately jumped out again when he saw Linda being wronged. "Don't think you're so great just because you relied on the Chu family. What's so great about a man who relies on a woman?" "Relying on a woman?" I smiled. "Mr. Gu, it doesn't seem like you have the right to say that, right? If I remember correctly, the reason you were able to cooperate with Tianmu Group this time was because of my ex-wife Linda's connections, wasn't it?" "You're talking nonsense." Gu Yunfan's face changed. "Whether I'm talking nonsense or not, you know in your heart." I leaned close to his ear and said in a voice that only the two of us could hear, "I also know that the so-called new energy technology plan you submitted to Tianmu Group was stolen from Linda's family's confidential documents. And the person who helped you steal the documents was this seemingly innocent Miss Linda beside you." Gu Yunfan's body shook violently, and he looked at me in horror. "How do you know?" "I not only know this, but I also know that your good days are over." After saying that, I ignored him, turned to Chu Ningshuang and said, "Let's go. The air here is too dirty." "Okay." Chu Ningshuang nodded, took my arm, and left the banquet hall in everyone's shocked gaze. Behind us were Gu Yunfan and Linda's faces, as pale as paper. I knew that the seed I planted tonight would soon take root and sprout in their hearts, growing into a tree called fear. The next day, a bombshell exploded in the city's business world. The Chu family officially announced that it had successfully bid for the city's west side renovation project, and that a large deposit of a rare mineral, mockery, had been discovered within the project area. As soon as the news came out, the Chu family stock price instantly soared to its highest level. On the other side, Tianmu Group and Linda's family were completely dumbfounded. Their original plan was to use the cooperation with Linda's family to obtain new energy technology patents, and then use the mockery mine in the west of the city for mass production, thereby monopolizing the entire new energy market. But now, the most important raw material had been preempted by the Chu family. Their plan had failed before it even started. The president of Chu Group was very angry and immediately terminated all cooperation with Linda's family. Gu Yunfan was also sued by Chu Group for stealing trade secrets, facing huge compensation and imprisonment. Linda's family situation was even worse. They had invested almost all of their liquid funds in this project. Now that the project was ruined, the company immediately fell into a serious financial crisis. As the saying goes, when a wall falls, everyone pushes it down. Former partners who used to curry favor with Linda's family came to collect debts. Banks also began to urge them to repay loans. In just a few days, the once glorious Linda's family had become shaky and could go bankrupt at any time. Su Manlin was in a hurry. Crying every day, Linda locked herself in her room, refusing to eat or drink, and refused to see anyone. And I, together with Chu Shuang, sat in the Chu family's top-floor office, leisurely drinking coffee and watching the changes in the outside world. Your move is truly cutting off their path directly. Ruthless enough, Chu Shuang looked at me, her eyes carrying a hint of appreciation. I'm becoming more and more curious. What kind of person are you exactly? I smiled and didn't answer. What kind of person am I? I'm a vengeful ghost who crawled back from hell. The Linda family is on the verge of collapse. Chu Shuang said, their only hope now is the molybdenum selenide in our hands. I guess they'll be begging you soon. Beg me? I shook my head. They'll only come to you. Oh. In their eyes, I, Duke, am forever that useless person who can be bullied at will. Even if they beg, they'll only beg those they deem valuable. As soon as I finished speaking, there was a knock on the office door. The secretary walked in and said respectfully, President Chu, Miss Su Manlin and Miss Linda from the Linda family have arrived and wish to see you. Chu Shuang glanced at me, her eyes filled with a playful look. Let them in. Soon, Su Manlin and Linda walked in. It had only been a few days, but they looked much more haggard. Su Manlin no longer had her previous arrogance. Her face was plastered with a fawning smile. Linda, on the other hand, hung her head, her face pale, and didn't dare to look at me. President Chu, hello. As soon as Su Manlin entered, she nodded and bowed to Chu Shuang, then carefully glanced at me, her eyes complex. Chu Shuang ignored her and simply asked, something the matter? Yes, a big matter. Su Manlin rubbed her hands, anxiously saying, President Chu, our Linda family, we are willing to offer a high price to buy the molybdenum selenide in your hands. The price is negotiable. As long as you are willing to sell it to us, we will agree to any condition. Oh, agree to any condition? A mocking smile appeared on the corner of Chu Shuang's mouth. What if my condition is that members of your Linda family kneel down and beg me? Su Manlin's face instantly turned ugly, but she still forced herself, squeezing out a smile. President Chu, don't joke around. We sincerely want to cooperate with you. Cooperate? Chu Shuang laughed. Miss Su, have you forgotten who it was that pointed at my partner at the banquet and called him trash? Now you want to cooperate with us? Don't you think that's ridiculous? The color completely drained from Su Manlin's face. She finally understood that Chu Shuang was standing up for me. Her gaze shifted to me. Duke. No, Mr. Duke. She looked at me, her voice trembling slightly. Before was Annie wrong? Annie was blind. You are generous. Don't hold it against us for the sake of Linda. Please help us. She actually mentioned Linda. Before I could speak, the always silent Linda suddenly raised her head. She looked at me, her eyes red, her voice hoarse. Duke, I'm begging you, okay? Her voice carried a hint of fragility and pleading that I had never heard before. As long as you are willing to help the Linda family get through this crisis, I will agree to anything you want. Agree to anything I want? I looked at her and smiled. If I said, I want you to kneel down? My words stunned everyone present. Chu Shuang watched me with great interest, seemingly wanting to see what I would do. Su Manlin's face was filled with anger and humiliation. As for Linda, her body trembled violently. Her lips were bitten until they turned white, and tears fell like beads from a broken string. She looked at me, her eyes full of pain and struggle. I thought that, with her pride, she would definitely not agree. But I was wrong. In a dead silence, Linda's legs slowly bent. She was really going to kneel. No! Su Manlin screamed and rushed over to help her, but I was faster. I quickly stepped forward and grabbed her arm. A second before her knees touched the ground, her arm was as cold as a piece of iron. What are you doing? I looked at her, my eyes ice cold. Linda, do you think I'll soften if you kneel? Do you think that by humiliating yourself in this way, you can offset everything you've done to me before? I'm telling you, it's impossible. The harm you brought me, You can't make up for it even if you die 10,000 times. I shook off her hand with great force, causing her to stagger back a few steps and crash into the sofa behind her. Take your mother and get out. I pointed to the door, saying each word clearly. I don't want to see you again. Sue Manlin, seeing her daughter being humiliated, finally couldn't help but explode. Duke, you beast. Don't forget who brought you out of the orphanage in the first place. Who gave you food and clothing. Our Linda family raised you for 3 years. Even raising a dog would develop feelings. Is this how you repay us? Repay? I laughed until tears almost came out. The repayment you're talking about is to treat me as a replacement for Gu Yunfan, to scar me after you're done with me, is to break my legs and throw me into the street when I need help the most. Sue Manlin, put your hand on your heart and say, in these 3 years, did your Linda family ever treat me like a human being? My question left Sue Manlin speechless. Linda was even more slumped on the sofa, her face ashen. Get out. I didn't want to waste any more words with them. Sue Manlin still wanted to say something, but looking at my eyes, which were so cold that they lacked even a trace of emotion, she ultimately didn't dare to speak. She helped the distraught Linda up and left the office in a disheveled state. After they left, the office was silent. Chu Shuang looked at me, her eyes complex. Are you all right? I shook my head, walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, and looked at the 2 figures downstairs, as tiny as ants. I just feel. It's pathetic. Pathetic? Yes, I said softly, in my previous life, I treated her as my entire world, but in the end, I realized that I didn't even know if she could speak. Chu Shuang was silent. She walked to my side and handed me a glass of warm water. It's all in the past, she said. From now on, you have me. I turned to look at her. In the lamplight, the outline of her profile was distinct, and her eyes were firm. At that moment, my heart, which had been frozen for a long time, seemed to thaw a little. The Linda family's crisis did not end because of their pleas. Under the relentless pressure from the Chu family, the Linda family's stock price plummeted again and again, quickly reaching the brink of bankruptcy. Just then, Gu Yunfan was arrested, charged with stealing trade secrets and committing commercial fraud. He would spend the rest of his life in prison. This news became the last straw that broke the Linda family's back. Linda's father, the chairman of the board, couldn't bear the blow and suffered a sudden cerebral hemorrhage, landing him in the ICU. The Linda family was completely finished. Soon after, the court announced the news of the Linda family's bankruptcy liquidation. Their villa, where they had lived for decades, was auctioned off, and all the luxury cars under their name were towed away. Sue Manlin and Linda fell from the clouds to the mud overnight. I saw Linda again on a rainy day. She was holding a broken umbrella, standing under the Chu Corporation building, soaked to the bone, looking very disheveled. When she saw me, she immediately rushed over and blocked my way. Duke, she looked at me, her voice hoarse. Can we talk? Looking at her like this, I felt no sympathy. We have nothing to talk about. No, we do. She stubbornly looked at me, raindrops streaming down her pale cheeks. I know you hate me. Hate the Linda family. Now the Linda family has fallen, and the revenge you wanted is complete. Can you please let my father go? Let your father go? I laughed. Miss Linda, are you mistaken? Your father got sick and was hospitalized on his own. What does that have to do with me? As for the Linda family's bankruptcy, that's market regulation, survival of the fittest. Who can you blame when you're not capable enough? It's you. It's you. Linda's emotions suddenly became agitated. If it weren't for you, the Chu family wouldn't have taken action against us. If it weren't for you, Gu Yunfan wouldn't have been arrested. It's you. You ruined everything for us. She screamed hysterically at me, like a madwoman. I looked at her coldly. Yes, it's me, I admitted it, so what? When you trampled me underfoot back then, did you ever think there would be a day like this? Linda, all of this, you brought it upon yourselves. My words were like a knife, stabbing her heart. She staggered back 2 steps, her face devoid of color. Why? She muttered. What did I do wrong? I just wanted Yunfan to come back. You did nothing wrong. I looked at her and said, word by word, you just shouldn't have treated me like an idiot. I learned sign language for 3 years for you because I thought you couldn't speak. And what was the result? You just didn't want to talk to me. I gave up my dignity for you, gave up everything, and lived like a dog for 3 years. And what was the result? You treated me like a disposable substitute. Linda, tell me, in these 3 years, was there even a single second that you were sincere to me? Every word I said was like a heavy hammer, smashing into her heart. Her body swayed, almost unable to stand. tears mixed with rain, streaming down her face. She opened her mouth, as if she wanted to say something, but in the end, she didn't say a single word. Yes, what could she say? Everything I said was true. Just then, a red Porsche stopped beside us. The window rolled down, revealing Chu Ningxuang's exquisite face. "Get in," she said to me. I didn't hesitate, opened the car door and got in. The car started and sped past Linda. I saw her in the rearview mirror still standing there, like a statue abandoned by the whole world. The rain was getting heavier and heavier, and soon, her figure blurred into the rain. I looked away. I told myself that everything was over. Linda and I, from now on, were two parallel lines that would never intersect again. But I didn't expect that our entanglement was far from over. A few days later, I received an unexpected phone call from the hospital. On the other end of the line, the nurse's tone was very anxious. "Is this Mr. Duke? Your wife, Ms. Linda, has attempted suicide. She is currently being resuscitated and needs a family member to come immediately to sign." My brain went blank. Wife? Suicide? When I arrived at the hospital, Linda was still in the operating room. Sue Manlin sat on the bench outside the operating room, looking like she had lost her soul, her eyes vacant. Seeing me, she grabbed onto me like a drowning person, clutching my arm. "Duke, save Linda. You have to save her. She can't die. She tried to kill herself because of you. She left a suicide note. She said she's sorry for what she did to you. She wants to pay you back with her life." I was dizzy from being shaken by her and pushed her away. "Where's the suicide note?" Sue Manlin pulled a letter from her bag and handed it to me. On the envelope was Linda's delicate handwriting. "To Duke." My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. The contents of the letter were very long. She started with our first meeting, writing about why she agreed to marry me in the first place, and her complex feelings for me over the past 3 years. She said that in the beginning, she did treat me as a substitute, as a tool to appease her grandfather. She thought she only loved Gu Yunfan. But without knowing when, my figure had quietly taken root in her heart. She had grown accustomed to the breakfast I prepared for her every morning, accustomed to me waiting for her under the company building with an umbrella on rainy days, accustomed to me clumsily staying by her bedside all night without sleeping when she was sick. She didn't say it, but in her heart, she had slowly accepted me. Even when Gu Yunfan came back, she hesitated for a moment, not knowing whether to choose the white moonlight she had loved for 7 years, or the man who had silently protected her for 3 years. In the end, she chose Gu Yunfan because she felt she owed Gu Yunfan, and also because she thought I would always be waiting for her, that as long as she turned around, I would definitely be there. But she was wrong. I left, leaving so resolutely, without a trace of nostalgia. She said that at the moment of our divorce, she realized how much her heart hurt. She said she regretted it. She wrote, "Duke, I'm sorry. I owed you these 3 words for 3 years. Is it too late to say them now? I know I don't have the right to ask for your forgiveness. The harm I've brought you is a sin I can never make up for in this lifetime. If my death can reduce the hatred in your heart, even a little, then I am willing. Forget about me, find a good girl, and live a good life. In the next life, if there's a next life, let me love you, okay?" At the end of the letter was a line of blood-red characters. "I love you." I couldn't control my tears anymore, and they burst out of my eyes. I hate her, I really hate her, but when I knew she might die, why did my heart hurt so much? With a clang, the door to the operating room opened. The doctor walked out, took off his mask, and said, "I'm sorry, we did everything we could." My world completely collapsed at that moment.